Good morning, everybody, and welcome from Northern Illinois and my beautiful woods in the fall of this year and Conversations with the Soul. Thank you so much for joining me today. Um, so, this whole week, good morning, Kathy. This whole week, we're going to be talking about shamanic types of energy work. And I've studied shamanic work from a lot of different cultural perspectives. So I've studied it from Eastern medicine, I've studied it from various North Native American tribes, I've studied it with South American tribes, to my own European background of Irish and Polish and German, and cultures all around the world for, since the beginning of time have had shamanic techniques and shamanic tools that they've used. And many people have a really big misunderstanding and confusion about shamanic work because it's been so, I guess, compartmentalized, or there's been so many, big, bright figures that have been so confident and kind of dogmatic about how shamanic work should be done. The one thing that I found from working with all of these different cultures and studying and being passionate about all of their different cultural medicines is that the truth about how the body mind works and how the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious all work together, and our nervous system works together, and our heart and our gut, and all of that, the truths stay the same. Every culture just uses a different set of metaphors, let's say, a different way to describe what they're doing. And they use many of the same tools, or tools which may be different but have the same effects. So, I'll give some really great examples of shamanic tools which are multicultural. One of them is sweat lodges. Sweat lodges, people think are, indicative of North Native American cultures. But in reality, a lot of Western cultures used it as well. That's where the sauna and things like that came from. That Aboriginal cultures in Australia, they used them. Actually, most cultures used some form of what we call hydrotherapy, which is that hot-cold difference, in order to not only affect the body, but we already know that when you affect the body, you affect the mind. And you affect the thoughts and beliefs and ideas, and you give someone a new experience. So things which are our saunas and sweat lodges are something that has been easy for so many cultures to use in order to help people reach other levels of consciousness. Because that's really the basic foundation of shamanic work, which is to help people reach other levels of consciousness which they don't have everyday access to, which, as you're walking through the world, going through your day, going to work, surviving, eating dinner, all that other stuff, that it's a consciousness that is not every day. And when you get outside of yourself, when you expand your thoughts and your experiences, even if they're just inner experiences, to something bigger than you, you become more whole, you become more well-rounded. Good morning, Ruth. You reclaim parts of yourself. Some people might say you do soul reclamation, which means that you discover parts of yourself that you might have forgotten. Parts of yourself you might have been aware of when you were in the womb, or when you were an infant, or before your brain fully developed. So parts and pieces that have kind of been left behind because we needed to survive in the world that we're in. So shamanic energy work, what it does is it helps you expand your thinking and expand your view of the world and your understanding of yourself and other people and how everybody and everything interconnects. That's the beauty of shamanic work, because it takes you out of the ordinary into the extraordinary just for a little while, so that you can get beyond out of those habitual patterns of thinking. Now, shamanic energy work does also do a good job with physical healing, because most of the work that they do is the is based on metaphors and the placebo effect. It's based on how, and many people have a misunderstanding about the placebo effect. It's kind of poo-pooed a lot in Western medicine because it's, it isn't a pill, or it isn't something, very specific. It isn't surgery that's done. It isn't so concrete. But the neat thing about the placebo effect is really it's your body healing itself. And it's you choosing to tell your body what direction you want it to go. So from everything I've studied over my lifetime, the body and the body mind, everything that we are so malleable. We're like Play-Doh. Every 7 years, every single cell in our body is replaced in some way. Every part and piece of our body is replaced. And the only thing that keeps it doing the things that it does and looking the way that it does are the patterns that we have, the codes, whether it be our DNA codes or our nervous system patterns. That's the only thing that keeps us looking and doing and being the way that we are. Shamanism, it gets us out of those patterns so that we can evolve, we can grow as people. Because as I was reading a quote this morning, it was about how if you're not changing, you're actually going backwards. If you're not evolving in some way and learning more about yourself and the world around you, and learning more about compassion and self-awareness and reflection and understanding and how the world works. If you're not continually evolving and maturing as a human being, you're actually going backwards. And unfortunately, I think because we came from a place, a lot of people come from a place of not having really great parenting structures in place, so we didn't have a healthy, secure family and a healthy, secure, good morning, Mark, base in which to explore the world from. And so a lot of us are still working on some very old beliefs and some very old experiences that make us want to feel as safe as possible, because the world is so scary, because we feel so insecure about our ability to handle it, that we just want to do everything that we can to stay safe. The problem with that is when you stay safe, when you don't reach beyond your comfort zone and outside of your normal everyday consciousness, then you actually start to go backwards and you start to degrade and stagnate and things start to break down. So if you want to continue to become a greater and greater person and not have your life get smaller and smaller, then shamanic work, in whatever way that you do it in, is a really great tool. So my favorite shamanic tools are pretty basic. It's meditation and time for self-reflection. It's body work. It's a desire for new experiences, a desire for new points of view and new perspectives. And sometimes it's using plant medicines in order to take us to a different level of consciousness. Now, plant medicines don't have to be something as powerful or strong as let's say, ayahuasca from the South American rainforests, or peyote, which some North Native American religions use, or cannabis, or or opiates. They aren't necessarily required in order to have those deeper, higher levels of consciousness. You can do these things in a much gentler way, rather than take yourself someplace where you could end up being re-traumatized if you don't do it in a really safe, smart way. But the whole purpose of shamanic work is understanding how you work and how the world works by opening up your mind to new ideas and new experiences, new beliefs, new ways of looking at the world. So when you take that time to get outside of your comfort zone, you're actually doing great shamanic work. You're doing great inner work. And some people do it by going through 12-step programs. Some people do it by going through their religion. But it's just that constant getting outside of your own self and outside of your own head. Now, the neat thing about more structured shamanic work is that it's been studied and played with and worked with um, for thousands and thousands of years. It's something that it's not a newbie walking in and saying, okay, let's give this a shot. It's cultures and people who have, like myself, who've spent decades studying how we actually work, how we change our neural connections, how we change our nervous system, how we change our thoughts and beliefs. And so, as I said, a lot of shamanic work can work really well for healing the body, healing the mind, healing addictions, healing trauma, past family patterns. Good morning, Christine. They're great for healing all sorts of things, because if you talk to indigenous cultures and shamans, they will tell you in a healing, the patient doesn't always survive, because healing isn't only based on whether you're able to get rid of the cancer or whether you're able to get rid of the illness which is making you sick. Healing has a much broader perspective. It is many more waves and resonance into the outer world. So what we're going through now, in the United States culture of all of the traumas, good morning, Ro, of all of the traumas and all of the sexual harassment and sexual abuse and those sorts of things coming up now, is our country is going through a healing process. And healing, as you know, isn't always really fun. It isn't, it's extremely uncomfortable. And that's the part of happiness. That's the part of love. That's the part of wholeness, is when we consistently get outside of our comfort zone, look at things from a different perspective, and then come back to our safe place. So even as children, we should have had that, but most of us didn't, or many of us didn't, I should say. The whole purpose is to have this safe place that we can always come back to, and then adventure out into the different realms of consciousness or the different realms of reality. So let me tell you some of the other tools that shamanic energy work uses. One of the things that I like is entrainment. Whenever we want to have a new thought or get outside of our own head, one of the things we need to do is to get our conscious mind out of the way. We need to have it stop guarding our thoughts so vigilantly. We need to be open to curiosity. Now, how do you do that? Because as much as a lot of us would love to be curious and love to be open-minded, we've had so many bad experiences that our conscious mind comes in and says, wait a second, this is not something that we want to do. I know what this is. I know how this is going to turn out, and we're not going to do it again. Because insanity is when you create the same pattern over and over again and expect different results. Now, that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is when we, let me turn my light on very quick. Oh, it's not coming on, so it'll be a little bit dark. Oh, one more time. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there's another theory that's out there. Believe it or not, I got this from Jurassic Park. It's chaos theory. And it's the fact that every time we do something, something changes slightly. It changes minutely. As we all have heard, the only thing that stays the same is change. That's it. And so even though we think we're recreating the same patterns over and over and over, and why are we doing this, and now I need to beat myself up, oh, my Wi-Fi is back. Okay. So, where was I? Oh, yeah, getting our conscious mind out of the way. So, until we're able to get our conscious mind out of the way, then we can't have evolution and new change. And so, even though you're repeating the same pattern over and over, everything that you're learning, everything that you're doing is integrating, is coming in and giving you a brand new experience that you might not be aware of. So don't beat yourself up when you do the same patterns over and over, because every time you do, believe it or not, you're learning something new. So that's what I do love about patterns. One of the ways to get your conscious mind out of the way, out of those habitual patterns, out of those, that dogmatic point of view, out of that gatekeeper, is to use repetition. So one of my favorite shamanic tools is repetition. Now, the repetition can be from shamanic drumming, which is rhythmic drumming over and over that sedates your mind. Another, though, great repetition tool is driving. When you drive long distances, your mind is engaged with something else, and it allows your mind to expand. I'm sure we've all had those experiences when we've taken long trips where you get into this zone, you get into this expanded, frame of mind where you can think new thoughts and get new insights and wisdoms. Or when you're doing something you've done a million times before, where you don't really have to pay attention to it. It's one reason why I think people like busy work, is because you don't have to pay attention to vacuuming the carpet. You don't have to pay attention to washing the dishes or mowing the lawn. Just enough of your consciousness is engaged to get it, busy over here, so that you can self-reflect, so that you can think of new thoughts in new ways. So you've already been doing it already. Any patterns, any repetitive things that you've done over and over is shamanic work. It's a way to get yourself, out of your own mindset. So that's one of my favorite. Another one of my favorites is distraction. Is when we are able to distract ourselves with something else from our from where we are, any discomfort that we have or any difficulties that we have. When we can dial down the discomfort for a little while, it does let us think outside of the box. One of the reasons why people love baths, baths, they give you a different sensory, a different felt experience. And from that felt experience, you're able to think in new directions. You're able to self-reflect in different directions. Good morning, Tony. How nice to see you again. Another way that I use distraction is I'll go outside into different temperatures. That walking in different temperatures really helps you be distracted from your own physicality, from your own immediate, obsessive, maybe neurotic thoughts. It gets you outside of yourself, thinking in different directions. That's shamanic work too. So when you take a walk outside, even, whether it be in your backyard or a park or down the street, you're doing shamanic energy work. It's about getting to those different levels of consciousness and allowing yourself to think outside of your normal patterns of your normal day. One of my favorite shamanic tools is let's go for a walk. And let's listen to new music maybe that we've never listened to before. Let's look at things we've never seen before, and let's allow our minds to get a little bit bigger than they were. So all of us are shamans in one way or another. We already use these tools if we're, halfway functional and healthy. We already use these tools to help us get outside of ourselves and think of different perspectives. One of the interesting things about perspectives that's been coming up lately is I've been reading these great stories about the science of emotion. And they talk about how when you disagree with something, many times we are more interested in the opposite point of view than our own. On one hand, yes, we want the validation of our own point of view so that we feel secure. But on the other hand, we want to look at the opposite points of view, usually because we want to pick it apart. We want to find the holes in somebody's thought processes and the holes in their theories. The interesting thing about that, though, is the more you allow yourself to look at other points of view other than your own, the more likely you are to evolve and grow as a person. That's shamanic energy work, too. So whenever you have a dialogue, even if it's a little bit heated, with somebody else, and they're exposing you to thoughts you never, would have considered, perspectives you never would have considered, you're doing shamanic energy work too. So, for me, a lot of my life, and I still am to some degree, I was very afraid of conflict, of having those dialogues and discussions because they felt very uncomfortable. And I'd have to allow myself to be vulnerable and share my points of view. But I knew I needed to get over that because I knew it was kind of controlling me in some way and I didn't like it. So I started to, engage more and more in these little confrontational waiting. There we go. Okay, that's my cue, I think, to wrap up today on shamanic energy work. So, anyways, we're going to spend a whole week. Good morning, Barbara. We're going to spend a whole week on shamanic energy work and all the different tools and techniques that you can use to tap into your body mind, tap into your psyche in order to evolve as a person, in order to create the life that you really love, heal your body, heal your mind, heal your relationships, all that stuff. And we're going to come at it from the point of indigenous and ancestral teachings that you can use anywhere and everywhere in order to really expand your consciousness and become the you that you want to be, that you know you can be, that you're meant to be. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for holding out through my Wi-Fi glitches. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 8:15. And just a heads up, I'm going to be in Hawaii next week on Maui. So I am not going to be broadcasting at 8:15 in the morning. Although if someone wants to be a guest and run it for me, let me know. We'll set something up. Otherwise, I'm going to be taking everybody along on my different adventures because I guess I have a full week planned in Maui. And so we'll take you parasailing and we'll take you snorkeling and we'll take you up the mountains and we'll take you to the spa and you can enjoy part of my vacation with me. So have a great day. Like this, share this, like my pages because the more you interact, good morning, Tina, the more you interact, the better our tribe gets and the more dialogue and shamanic energy work that we get. So thanks, Barbara, and I will see you tomorrow morning, 8:15 CST. Bye.